to this, so I'm very, very new to this. Mostly I write stories, but I don't usually tell them out loud. I'm Lori, by the way. When I was 5, my family was living up in Deep here, which is by Green Bay. Packers were winning the Super Bowls, and that's one of my memories is Dad always every Sunday in front of the TV with a bottle of beer, watching the Packers and going, "Go, God damn it, you take that fucker out!" Stuff like that. That was Sunday football after church. And, yeah. And he was even friends with some of the Packers, and because he was in the VFW then, he had been in Korea, the Korean War, although he wasn't actually in Korea, he was in Japan, and he wasn't actually fighting. What I found out later was he was actually on the side running a brothel. But that's another story. That gives you an idea of my dad. He tries to say now it was a hotel, but we know better. We're sure there's other little canards running around, blue-eyed, half-Japanese kids with big noses and little stubby bow-legged. But he was on the VFW, so one of the neat things he'd do is carry the flag out on the field at the beginning of the Packer games, and afterwards, you know, go drinking with some of them. And he and my grandpa did the electrical wiring for Vince Lombardi's home, so that's our family's claim to fame is the Packers and our relation to them. But like I said, we were living up in Deep here, and back then, my life, my childhood, and all my brothers and sisters were a lot like a Linda Berry cartoon, you know, about Arna and Marlise, and I love Linda Berry cartoons because I can so relate to them, and she herself is so cool. And I am still pissed at the Isthmus for not renewing and having her cartoons in the paper, and like they did in the 80s. But like for Christmas, it was typical. Girls, we all got dolls and stuffed animals and clothes for our dolls, very boring. My brother, he'd get the fun stuff. The boys always got the fun stuff. The Tonka trucks that you could zoom up and down, and the Tinker Toys and Lincoln Logs and Legos and things you could build with, you know, stuff you could do things with and play with, instead of just look at this stupid doll like, who has a very mean and cold look on her face that, of course, they always thought was cute, but the eyes are very cold on dolls. Very emotionless, very cold, very dead. And about the only good thing you could do with a doll was the Barbie. You could pull the head off and roll it down the hall and watch the cat bat it around the hall. That was fun. Or if you had a doll that had the hole between the legs, you could pull her hair off, fill her with water, and then push on her belly and yell, "Ha ha, she peed on you." That was fun. That's about the only fun you could have with dolls as far as. So that was kind of like our Christmases, and then Halloween, Ma always dressed us up as hobos, put the shaving cream on our faces, sprinkle on some instant coffee, send us out in our oldest clothes. My oldest sister would take us out. She was 8 at the time, and it would be nighttime, and you could do that. And we'd bring our pillowcases, and the neighbors would put the candy in, and we'd come home and dump them out on the floor. There'd be apples, and besides the usual candy we don't even have anymore nowadays, like Mary Jane's or Biddo Honeys. I love the Biddo Honeys. We could dump it on the floor and eat it all right away, including the apples, and it didn't have to be checked for razor blades or nothing. It was nice. It'll be a couple of years later that all the rules would change for Halloween, which would be sad. Another thing is, before Halloween there was an 4th of July, and again we got to play with sparklers. You know, we got to light them ourselves with the matches, run around, throw them in the air, and that was okay. We got to use the matches ourselves, just get them off where Mom had her cigarettes. And you know, and we can also go to the store and buy the cigarettes for Mom, or go to the laundromat and put some money in the machine and pull a knob, and the cigarettes would come out for us, and then bring them home to Mom. We could do that when I was 5. And so we light punks and snakes and these sticks that we could also light at the 4th of July, and no adults around, and that was okay too. Again, that was all before the rules changed. But what I remember most about when I was 5 was my dad, because those were his bad drinking days. When he was sober, my dad was really nice. He could talk like Donald Duck. He looked something like Don Adams and Get Smart. Really funny, really nice guy. Remember playing with the Lincoln Logs, and he'd build little outhouses, and he and Ma would be snickering, but none of us would know what the hell's an outhouse. But those were his bad drinking days, and when he was drunk, it was like Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hyde. And what I remember most over the years is an incident that happened just 4 days before I turned 5, before my 5th birthday. And Dad, we were at my grandparents, and we came home, and so I'm in my grandpa's car, no seat belts or anything. I'm leaning on against the window, and through the window I see Mom in the backyard by the kitchen door crying on a police officer's shoulder, and there's an ambulance, a long white ambulance like a station wagon, backed up to the kitchen door, which was open. And through the screen door I could see a couple ambulance guys, and they were talking to my dad, who was laying in front of the gas stove with my brother's pink blanket across his shoulder and the oven door open. And what I thought for years and years afterwards, in fact for over 20 years, that what had happened that day was Dad had been playing softball at the VFW park, and he'd been drinking and got his arm broken, and then came home and tried to fix his arm on the gas stove. And I never questioned that memory, because I knew by the age of 5 that you couldn't trust people when they were drinking because they didn't know what they were doing. I didn't put it in that those words, but that's what I knew. And it wouldn't be until I was around 25 that I would overhear my mom and my older sister talking about that really bad time when Dad attempted suicide with the gas stove. And I remember thinking, oh, that's what happened that day. But again, I wasn't shocked or anything, because growing up in an alcoholic family, don't talk, don't trust, don't feel, it just didn't really surprise me. All that surprised me was that all those years I had this different explanation than what really happened. And then it was another 10 years later, when I was 35, that I found out that this memory I had didn't even happen when I was 6 and in the summer, but it happened in the spring, 4 days before I turned 5. And that was when I was reading my grandmother's diary. And he didn't even have a broken arm then. He didn't break it later until he was a patient up in Woods Veterans Hospital. So, but again, all I remember that is he was in the hospital, and while he was there, he made this, my dad's very artistic too, and he made on this paneling this really beautiful Siamese cat that he filled in the colors with little tiny fish gravel. It was a popular type of art form back then. And he made this beautiful Siamese cat, and so when he came out of the hospital, he brought it home, and now my older sister has it. And so, again, like I said, my childhood was a Linda Berry cartoon. There were bad times, but there were also good times. And through it all, we loved our parents, because it wasn't about whether or not they loved us and whether or not they cared about us. It was just stuff happened. And so that's it, I guess. That's all I can say is that when my daughter was 5, I asked her, because I knew when I was 5, I knew what beer smelled like, I knew what it tasted like, and I especially knew what it smelled like on the breath of somebody who'd just come home from a night of drinking in the bars. And I asked her one time while walking her to school, I said, do you know what beer is? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, what is it? And she says, it's that stuff Homer Simpson drinks on The Simpsons. And I'm like, okay, well, what does it taste like? And she said, well, it tastes like root beer. And so I like to think I at least gave her that much, that at age 5, she didn't even know what beer tasted like or smelled like. And unlike my mom's other grandchildren who'd all been in the bar in their little infant carriers within a week of being out of the hospital, she was the only one who hadn't been raised in a bar either. So gave her something, but okay.